Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ryan Latham, and today is Monday, the 18th. And I am excited to share with you guys today some thoughts from this weekend. For most of you guys, the re-beginning process, or sorry, the reopening process has somewhat begun. I know there's still quite a few of you guys that are not in the reopening phase, but you've at least considering what it might look like to begin to reopen. And so I wanted to share just some thoughts from this weekend of what I saw from multiple churches that are beginning that reopen phase of their process here. And so I wanted to share just a couple thoughts of what I saw and some tips as you guys are navigating this season of trying to figure out what does it look like to reopen, when to reopen, all that kind of stuff, which can be tough to try and navigate and figure out when all of that's going to happen. And so wanted to share a couple thoughts with you, a couple things that I saw that I thought were pretty cool, pretty unique. Uh, and so a couple things. One is this: I know that that reopening is going to be awkward no matter when you start. And so that's why I think the biggest takeaway that I got from probably this weekend was just to start at some point. Obviously, if you're in a state that's completely locked down, you're completely shelter in place, all that kind of stuff, obviously you can't reopen right now. But I think that you need to really start thinking through and strategizing. Now, here's the great thing. The great news is if you're in one of the states that are still completely in shelter in place, lockdown, you get the opportunity to watch and to learn from all of these people that are trying to figure it out right now. Okay. So I want to encourage you guys to really dive in right now and to start really getting a game plan for what you're going to do as your state begins to open back up, as your youth ministry begins to open up, that your children's ministry begins to open up, as your church begins to open up. So here's a couple of things that I saw. Number one is this: is I'm seeing people beginning to get really a transition period 2 to 3 weeks before they really start opening back up. So what I mean by that is um, sending out a survey to see, man, what do people feel like? Are they ready? Are they not? Doing a couple things, testing the waters, kind of soft before. Um, I think one way to kind of think about this is almost like a church planner or opening a campus. A lot of those little steps that you would do if you're going to open a campus or you're going to start a church is a lot of the same things I think that we're going to be doing in this time. So a lot of people are doing things with just their volunteers up front, their kind of their dream team, their volunteer teams, bringing them in for kind of test piloting to see, okay, hey, look around. What do we miss? What are we not doing right? What's the sequencing that we can re-navigate, that we can bring our people in, or do we need to block off hallways, or do we remove? And I was talking to a pastor today. He even said, "Gosh, man, we remember, or we thought we needed to remove the Bibles out of our pews or our chairs, right? Because we don't want people touching those, or even the communication cards, removing all of that stuff, the pins, all those things that you would have in the seat backs, removing all of that, because again, we don't want people touching those, sharing those in between services, all that kind of thing." And so a couple of ways that I've seen people doing this is one, having drive-in services to kind of test out how people are feeling about coming back. And what I'm seeing is some people are doing a true drive-in service where people are actually parking in the parking lot and they're preaching live worship out in the streets, that kind of thing. But mostly what I'm seeing is people are recording their services and people are coming in, but they're still broadcasting it through a pre-recorded service, either on screens or people just pop up on their phones and watch. And so again, kind of getting people on campus, getting familiar with getting on campus at specific times, driving in, getting your ushers or your greeters, your parking lot teams, again, getting them a little bit used to doing that. Um, Another one is kind of like a Saturday night worship in the parking lot, right? And so still the Sunday morning is pre-recorded or it's live streamed, but on Saturday night, doing something out in the parking lot where people come, a worship night. Again, it's a little bit different. People sitting in lawn chairs, getting out of their cars, maybe even, masks may or may not be required, right? But doing a worship thing on a Saturday night, again, kind of testing the waters before you just fully open up back up to the public. And so kind of a drive-in worship night, but then Sunday morning is still your pre-recorded or live stream. People are in their homes, but bringing people on the property in kind of a soft launch type of a mentality. Okay. Extra rows in between spaces of chairs. So again, if you have removable chairs, kind of like first class, you got extra leg room. So instead of having blocked off rows, just blocking off, having every row already that pre-measured out 6 feet distance between each other, so that when people come in, it's not like every other row, it's every row, but they're spaced out 6 feet already. My church did this. For those of you guys that are on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. I'm going to share my screen here. I want to show you guys what they did. They did this. They did, please stay one Pastor John length away from each other. And those guys that are not at YouTube, there's a picture of kind of two, people that are not real, but cartoon people. And then there's a person laying down, and it says 6.7 feet, because my pastor is 7 feet or 6 feet 7 away. And so it's kind of a fun way of saying, hey, just remember, stay 6 feet apart. But again, kind of a fun, interesting way of doing that. And that's a side note. I'd say in the midst of all this that's serious, and absolutely is all this stuff serious, absolutely. But I think in the midst of it, trying to figure out and find some ways to have some fun with it all, and have some jokes and things like that. Obviously, precautions overboard. Obviously, communication overboard. But again, having a little bit of some fun with it as well. Even in signs, they hold up the sign, honk if your church clothes still fit. Or I think I saw one church that said, we're smiling, you just can't see it because all the visitors and stuff or all the ushers had masks on, right? So we're smiling, just can't see it. So again, having some fun in the midst of all of this seriousness as people are coming back, still having a little bit of fun, but over communicating what it is. And so again, taping off rows, if you have bolted in pews or chairs, marking them off clearly. Don't sit in this row. Really, really important. And I would test that out. Is that easy to see when people walk in the middle of your worship set, when the lights are maybe down? Is it easy to see, clearly marked? That's very easy. Maybe some glow tape, something that when the lights are down during worship, that it's very easy to tell. Okay. Another one would be home groups. Now that's personally what my family is doing right now. Our church has opened back up, and it's just kind of convenient for us to do some home groups. And so we've invited friends over to our house, and we watch the live stream, and we watch it on TV, and we're there in our backyard. The weather's really nice right now, so we invite some friends over, their kids over, we watch it. And then we barbecue, have some great food together, and hang out all day. And so again, I think encouraging that, hey, invite people to stay at home invite their friends over, all that kind of stuff is great. Here's one thing that I think is kind of the concern is, will all of this end up being double work? Do we have to produce a fully, pre-recorded service with worship and speaking for our online community? And I would say this, I would say, think through ways of doing a live service that is broadcasted, that is live streamed. I know that can be intimidating, can be a little bit scary for those guys that haven't done that, but I think it's just going to be a lot easier than trying to do double the work long term. Because I really do believe this, and more and more I talk to people, the more I believe this, is that the online church is here to stay. And so you got to figure this out, how to do live services that are streamed. Otherwise, you're just going to be a 2019 church. You just got stuck. So again, as you're thinking through this, don't think about, how do we double it? Another really cool idea, and again, this would have to be state specific, city specific, all that kind of thing. But if you've got a church that has multiple buildings, or a church that has multiple significant size rooms, like a gymnasium, a youth room, an auditorium, a multi-purpose room, if you've got some of those, think about maybe doing multiple live events with smaller attendance in those rooms. So again, maybe 150 in your auditorium, and then maybe 75 in your gym, and then maybe 50 people in your multi-purpose room. Or if you've got and you're live streaming all of those, maybe you have a live MC kind of a campus pastor live there, but you're live streaming the entire thing. Another side note, as you're preparing to reopen, is I want to encourage you guys to try and go through and go touchless on all of your bathrooms, all of your stuff. Try to go touchless, right? We got to think through all of these steps. And so I want to let you guys know I am encouraged by you guys. I'm encouraged by the church. Thank you guys for all of what you're doing. We're going to figure this out. You guys are doing great. I've just recorded a couple of podcasts that are coming out on the Pastors Roundtable with some pastors that are going back to in-person. They're reopening. Great conversations about what they're doing, what they're thinking about, how they navigated this season. So hopefully those are going to be helpful for you guys, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.